Evan Hart stood in his sleek home office, the afternoon sun throwing heavy shadows against the walls. Trophies, models, and architectural sketches decorated every surface. He was 42, tall, and physically disciplined, his 6'2" frame the result of daily 5 a.m. workouts. Across from him paced his wife, Tessa. She was 38, with glossy dark hair and an angular figure clothed in top-tier designer fashion. Her expression was defiant, her sharp features heightened by the furious flush on her cheeks. She was used to admiration and envy, but that day, no one would have recognized her smug confidence for anything other than venom. "Are you even going to speak?" Tessa snapped, her voice brimming with haughty impatience. "You look at me like you're some grand judge, but you have no idea what I've gone through. You think your silent act makes you strong?" Evan stood behind his modern steel desk, posture rigid. He was good at hiding emotion, so good that people often underestimated him, just as Tessa had. His steel gray eyes flicked over her outfit. He knew exactly how much it had cost. After all, he had paid for it less than a week prior. "I'm processing the situation," he said in an even tone. "You expect me to fall apart, but you haven't told me anything I didn't already suspect." Tessa's mouth twisted in anger. She planted her hands on her hips, displaying a sapphire ring on her left hand, the ring she had flaunted around town for a month. Evan had seen the jewelry receipt on his credit card statement. He knew it hadn't been a gift from him. "Fine," she said. "I'm ending this. Caleb, your own brother, makes me feel alive in ways you never did. He's more of a man, more exciting, more spontaneous. I'm leaving you for him." Evan let a stretched silence hang between them, cold tension filling the air. "You're leaving for my twin brother," he said, voice so calm it was terrifying. "And you expect me to show regret? Are you waiting for tears or a breakdown?" "I'm waiting for a reaction," Tessa hissed. "But you stand there looking smug. Caleb wants me with him, and he wants your share of the family engineering firm. Your parents are behind him too. They think he should have been the one to lead the company all along. They'll push you out. He's taking your place, your name, everything you think you've earned." Evan's gaze took in the trembling of her hands. He recognized it from the early days of their marriage, that slight shake whenever she was bluffing or half-lying while playing cards or orchestrating manipulations. Tessa had always loved playing mind games. "Then you have nothing left to discuss with me," Evan replied, voice still level. "If you've chosen him, congratulations. Perhaps you'll enjoy the beach house he stole with embezzled funds. Make yourself at home there." She blinked. Clearly, she hadn't expected him to know about the laundering or the missing company money. For a moment, her eyes widened, but then her arrogant mask returned. "We'll be perfectly fine," she said, her voice rising. "Caleb knows how to seize opportunities, unlike you, with your tedious caution. Always so ethical, always so by the book. You think you're superior, but guess what? Good guys finish last." "We'll see," Evan said, motioning toward the door. "If you're finished, I have a project that needs my attention. Take your final belongings, leave the keys. You've made your decision." Tessa hesitated, as if planning some cutting remark. Instead, she spun on her expensive heels and stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the framed awards. Evan listened to her footsteps echo away, then the front door opening and closing. The engine of her luxury car revved, then faded into silence. When he was certain she had gone, Evan turned to his computer and opened a private email account. He typed a short, pre-written message to a special contact at the FBI's white-collar crime division, then hit send. Late that night, with a tumbler of whiskey in hand, untouched, Evan sat alone in his study. He stared at security footage on multiple monitors. He had installed the cameras long ago, anticipating corporate spies. Tessa, of course, had no clue how thorough he was, nor did she suspect his ability to track every intrusion into his office. He watched images of Tessa and Caleb sneaking into the house at 2 a.m., rummaging through locked cabinets. Other clips showed them stealing passwords, emailing files to each other, forging digital signatures, even rummaging through his personal safe. Tessa had always bragged that she understood him inside and out, that she could fool him anytime. But arrogance was her greatest weakness. "They really thought I'd never see this," he muttered to himself. He had meticulously compiled months of evidence. His twin brother, Caleb, had orchestrated a grand scheme to siphon Evan's designs and sabotage him within the family firm. Tessa, lured by visions of wealth and excitement, had eagerly become Caleb's accomplice. The two of them had planned everything, down to Tessa leaving Evan at the most psychologically opportune moment. "They think I'm boring, too quiet," Evan whispered, a flicker of cold amusement shaping his lips. They never asked themselves what secrets a quiet man might hide. He closed the video files and stood, posture rigid. A single email notification blinked. The FBI contact had replied, confirming a meeting. In the morning, Evan would provide the first set of documents proving Caleb's embezzlement. The rest would follow in due time, once it produced maximum damage. Close to midnight, a timid knock sounded at the study door. Evan checked the security feed and saw Vivian Taylor, his friend of 2 decades and the firm's legal counsel, standing there with her shoulders tense. "Come in," he said, not bothering to greet her formally. Vivian stepped inside. Her hair was disheveled, and her eyes were puffy from crying. She was a tall woman in her early 40s, usually confident in a boardroom or courtroom. Now, she looked like a cornered animal. "Evan," she began, "I need to explain something. Caleb approached me a while back." "To steal my patents," Evan interjected calmly. "He wanted you to create secret shell companies, right? So he could claim ownership of my earthquake-resistant designs. Don't tell me more. I already know enough." She looked at him, lips parted. "How could you possibly?" "The same way I figured out Tessa's betrayal," he said. "I pay attention." Vivian tried to regain some composure. "I was tricked," she insisted, voice shaking. "He forged some documents. He said your parents wanted to restructure everything. I didn't realize the extent." "I expected better from you," Evan said, voice clinical. "You served as my attorney at the wedding, introduced me to major investors, acted like a friend, but you sold me out for your own gain, for a bigger slice of the firm, correct?" "He threatened me," she whispered. "He said if I didn't cooperate, he'd ruin my reputation, tell the Bar Association I'd committed other ethical violations." "And so you decided to betray me," Evan said, bitterness underscoring each word. "Well, now you can pack up your files. I've already forwarded your involvement to the Bar Association. I wouldn't expect to keep your license." Vivian sank into the nearest chair, face pale. "Evan, please," she said, tears forming. "I've known you for 20 years. We were friends." "You stopped being my friend the moment you conspired with my brother." He pressed a button on his desk phone. "Security, please escort Miss Taylor out. She's no longer welcome here." "Evan!" Vivian cried, but he refused to look at her. He kept his gaze on a closed-circuit feed showing her fleeing the house moments later. When the door finally slammed shut, he exhaled, still cold and resolute. The next morning found Evan arriving at Hart Engineering Group's downtown office, located on the top floors of a gleaming skyscraper he had personally helped design in his 20s. The building was a testament to both creativity and precision, traits that his family, ironically, had always praised in Caleb more than in him. But as he stepped onto the executive floor, employees halted mid-conversation, giving him uneasy looks. Word had spread that Tessa had left him. People whispered. Some smirked, pitying him. Others looked uncertain, not knowing which Hart twin was truly in control. In the glass-walled boardroom, his parents sat with Caleb. Robert Hart was an older man with crisp silver hair, once a strong figurehead, but lately too eager to appease the more cunning members of his family. Eleanor Hart, refined and distant, had always placed social reputation above everything else. Caleb looked up, surprise etched on his face as Evan entered. "Brother," Caleb said, trying to sound cordial, "we weren't expecting you. Father wanted a private conversation regarding the firm's direction." "I'm sure," Evan replied, "but I have pressing matters. Someone's been stealing patented designs. FBI agents will be here soon. I thought it best to warn you." Caleb bristled. "You're paranoid. You bring in FBI agents over a business dispute? There's no theft. You're turning a personal problem into a federal problem," Evan said, cutting him off. "You might want a lawyer by your side, but I doubt Vivian can help you now." At that instant, 2 men in dark suits stepped through the boardroom doors, flanked by other agents. One produced a badge. "Special Agent Mills, FBI White-Collar Crimes Division," he said. "We have a warrant for Caleb Hart's arrest on suspicion of corporate espionage and embezzlement." The room froze. Robert shot to his feet, face reddening with anger. "This is an outrage," Robert said, rounding on Evan. "How could you do this to your own brother?" Evan regarded his father with a cool stare. "He's the one who decided to steal. I simply handed over the evidence." Caleb stood so quickly his chair toppled. "You've lost your mind!" he shouted, fists clenched. "There's no real evidence, Father! Mother, stop these agents!" But the agents stepped forward, reading him his rights and cuffing him. Caleb thrashed, glaring daggers at Evan. You think this is over? Caleb snarled, voice trembling with fury. I'll ruin you from behind bars if I have to. I doubt it, Evan said softly. Eleanor Hart grabbed her husband's arm, her eyes wide with shock and fear. But neither parent could halt the arrest. They stood there powerless as agents led Caleb away. Evan moved to one side, letting them pass. He noticed with detached amusement that Caleb's expensive suit had begun to tear at the shoulder from the struggle. We'll talk later, Evan told his parents. We'll see what the board decides, especially concerning the millions of dollars missing from the company accounts. His mother opened her mouth, but no words came out. Robert sputtered, unable to conjure the usual paternal commands. They'd never seen Evan so calm, so methodical, so ruthless. You can't do this to our family, Eleanor finally managed. You'd be surprised what I can do, Evan said, stepping out into the hallway. In another corner office, a senior project manager named Dean Langley watched the scene unfold from behind partially drawn blinds. He had long resented Evan for overshadowing him. Now, with Caleb arrested, rumors buzzed that Evan was dangerously unhinged. Dean placed a call to Tessa, who answered on the second ring. What do you have for me? She demanded, her tone arrogant and impatient. I'm stuck in a hotel suite I hate, listening to reporters call me a traitor. I've gathered files on Evan's upcoming designs, Dean said, his voice low. I can make it appear that he's made catastrophic errors. If the board believes he's a liability, he'll be forced out. That's exactly what I need, Tessa said, letting out an exasperated breath. Caleb's gone. The family is in chaos, and the only way I'm getting anything out of this marriage is if I turn the blame back on Evan, make him look incompetent or even criminal. Then I can claim his meltdown caused all this, and I'll salvage some money in the divorce. I'll show the board everything tomorrow, Dean replied, lips curving into a sly grin. Then if all goes according to plan, Evan gets axed, you get your slice, and I step into a leadership role. We can squeeze him out permanently. Caleb said Evan was paranoid, Tessa mused. That might help your case. No one will trust a man who can't keep his mind steady. Trust me, Dean said. By this time tomorrow, the board will want Evan gone. They ended the call. Dean's face shone with smug satisfaction. He had no idea that on Evan's hidden surveillance feed, every word was being recorded. In his personal office, Evan watched Dean's call in real time. On another screen, Tessa's face appeared, pacing in her suite. She looked exhausted, but an icy determination shone in her eyes. Still so sure of yourself, Evan murmured, hooking a thumb over the phone's next message. A single text from Tessa blinked. I'll destroy you. I hope you realize you forced me to do this. He closed it. With a few keystrokes, Evan pulled up a meticulously organized directory labeled Project Faithful. One by one, he opened files detailing every insider scheme Dean had run over the last few years. Kickbacks, shady deals, hidden accounts. Evan had known about these side hustles for some time. A cat bides its time before pouncing on the unsuspecting prey. Tomorrow, he said quietly. He'll make his move, and I'll be waiting. That evening, he walked the deserted halls of Hart Engineering, stopping by the model room to check his scale prototypes. The faint hum of the air conditioning was the only sound. He ran a hand across a polished architectural mock-up. Years ago, he had been naive, believing family loyalty trumped greed. Yet even back then, he had quietly collected data to protect himself. Now those precautions would serve him well. The next morning, the board convened in the largest conference room. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the city skyline. The mood was tense. Most board members had arrived early, whispering about the FBI's recent appearance. Evan entered with serene composure. He took a seat near the corner, flipping through documents on his tablet. Dean cleared his throat, connecting his laptop to a projector. Thank you for assembling, Dean said, adopting a grave expression. We need to address a critical concern regarding Mr. Evan Hart's engineering calculations on our new earthquake-resistant bridge project. Slides filled the screen, showing complicated stress analyses with bright red annotations. As you can see, Dean continued, these figures are dangerously off. If we move forward with these plans, there could be catastrophic failures. Loss of life, lawsuits. He trailed off, letting the horrifying implications sink in. Board members looked alarmed. Tessa, who had somehow managed to be present despite her personal disgrace, feigned shock. He's been under emotional distress, Tessa said, her voice heavy with pretended sincerity. I hate to say it, but Caleb always warned that Evan might be unstable. Dean nodded solemnly, pressing forward. For the safety of the company, we need to remove Evan from active design work, possibly from his position entirely. There's no telling how long these errors have been going on. He clicked to the next slide, but the projector flickered, revealing a corrupted file symbol. A sudden hush fell over the room. Then the lights in the boardroom brightened, and a new set of slides replaced Dean's doctored ones. These displayed bank transfers, offshore accounts in Dean's name, and emails detailing bribery. Dean's face lost color. What is this? He stammered, yanking at the laptop cable. Evan stood. It appears we have an unexpected slideshow, Dean, he said, voice crisp. I'd suggest you start explaining your own figures, like these $200,000 transfers from contractors to your personal account in the Caymans. I wonder how the FBI might interpret such data. Several board members exchanged shocked glances. Dean, one of them said, voice trembling with anger. Is this for real? We had no idea. This is a setup, Dean gasped, eyes darting. Evan's framing me. He's paranoid, making up stories. Suddenly, men in dark suits entered. One stepped forward, holding up a badge. Special Agent Nelson, FBI, he said. Mr. Langley, we have evidence of fraud and illegal kickbacks under your management. You're coming with us. Dean shoved back his chair, attempting to flee, but the agents wrestled him into handcuffs. His face burned red as he screamed at Evan, You bastard! You set me up! You're the villain here! If that's what you want to call it, Evan said with a detached shrug. Tessa glanced around, dread dawning in her eyes. She slipped toward the door, but Agent Nelson motioned for her to stop. Mrs. Hart, we'd also like to speak with you regarding certain design thefts you may have aided, he said, not quite placing her under arrest, but making it clear she was a person of interest. The board sat in stunned silence as Dean was hauled out, cursing, tears rolling down his cheeks. Tessa's face lost its arrogant composure, replaced by a flicker of real fear. I might need a lawyer, she said, swallowing hard. Evan calmly turned off the projector. He faced the board, whose members looked rattled. We have real calculations here, he said, tapping a thick binder. All verified by independent experts, pristine and safe. There are no errors, as you'll see once you read the genuine reports. My designs are sound. It's the sabotage that wasn't. That same afternoon, Evan received frantic texts from Robert and Eleanor, summoning him to the family mansion. He arrived to find them in the foyer, pacing anxiously. They had once lived in regal comfort, hosting galas and fundraisers. Now the house felt stripped of that usual glamour, as though the tension had stained every elegant marble tile. Evan, Robert barked, what have you done? Caleb's facing serious prison time, and the FBI is tearing apart the firm's records. Yes, Eleanor added, wringing her hands. And they're talking about tax irregularities, mentioning us. Our lawyers say we may have to give sworn statements. Evan regarded them without warmth. Why are you surprised? Caleb siphoned millions. You both turned a blind eye, awarding him secret shares while ignoring my warnings. You never offered me support. Now the government is asking questions you can't answer. He's our son, Eleanor exclaimed. We were just helping him succeed. We never thought you'd betray him to the authorities. You're his twin. He betrayed me first, Evan replied, voice darker. And you helped him do it. Did you think the IRS wouldn't uncover those hidden shares you transferred to him? The law is quite unforgiving about unreported assets. Robert's face went from red to pale. Evan, he said softly, we're a family. You can't just let your mother and me be publicly humiliated. This could destroy our reputation. We'll lose our standing in every social circle we've built for decades. That's exactly what's going to happen, Evan answered, his calm gaze never wavering. I'm not offering any help. You chose to side with him. Now you face the consequences. We're old, Eleanor wept. We can't start over if the authorities seize our assets. The media coverage alone. You should have considered that earlier, Evan said. You treated me like a commodity, easy to manipulate. You put your faith in the wrong son. Now you'll lose everything. He turned to leave. His father grabbed his arm, tears brimming in the old man's eyes. Don't do this, Robert pleaded. We beg you. We never meant to push you aside. Evan gently pried his father's hand away. You'll hear from the IRS soon. I suggest you find another lawyer. Vivian's in enough trouble of her own. He walked out, ignoring his mother's sobs. A trace of bitterness gnawed at him, but he reminded himself of every slight, every time they dismissed his accomplishments in favor of Caleb's empty bravado. Justice had arrived, and it wasn't gentle. Tessa was at a swanky hotel bar that evening, still dressed in the same designer outfit, but looking worn around the edges. She had ordered 2 glasses of overpriced champagne and kept checking her phone, hoping to salvage any piece of her old life. Evan surprised her by taking the bar stool next to hers. Her eyes flicked with a mixture of annoyance and relief. like a gambler hoping for one last chance to come out on top. "Hello, Tessa," he said coolly. She shot him a sideways glare, then pretended to calm herself. "I have nothing to say to you," she said, lifting the champagne flute and drinking deeply. "You told Dean you'd destroy me if I didn't see reason," Evan replied. "Now he's in custody along with my brother, yet here you are. Care to share how you plan to keep that promise?" She set the glass down. "I should have known you were always a snake," she said, her voice trembling with frustration. "So quiet, so smug. You think you've won, but you've destroyed your own family. You're monstrous." "I warned you never to cross me," Evan said, leaning in slightly. "You assumed my silence made me weak. Tell me, do you regret your choice of partner?" "You want to see me on my knees, begging forgiveness?" Tessa hissed. "I'd rather die. I'll never beg you for anything." He watched her eyes dart about, noticing that nobody in the bar was paying attention to them. He gave a small, chilling smile. "Suit yourself," he said. "The divorce settlement is final. You walked away with almost nothing. The firm's about to blacklist you from any future dealings, and the money Caleb promised you is gone, tied up in legal fees for his defense." "You can't leave me penniless," Tessa spat, trying to hide her panic. "I have years invested in your success. I supported you. I built you." "You built nothing," he replied coldly. "You pranced around on my dime, flaunting your shallow ambitions, and now the credit cards are cut. You've lost everything. But don't worry, I've arranged that if you ever try to tell all about me, you'll be sued for defamation. Your name alone is worthless, and any story you try to sell about my personal life will earn you a lawsuit you can't afford to fight." Tessa's manicured hand trembled around the champagne flute. "You're a monster," she said again. "I underestimated just how cruel you could be." "I'm only as cruel as you forced me to be," he answered, standing up. "Enjoy your evening, Tessa. The hotel bill's on you." He turned and left, ignoring the wave of angry tears that spilled down her cheeks. He had wanted to see if she had a last trick up her sleeve. She didn't. Days bled into weeks. Caleb's case escalated. More evidence surfaced. Shell companies, falsified ledgers, bribes to city officials. Tessa fell deeper into debt, hounded by reporters. Robert and Eleanor found themselves in the middle of a tax evasion scandal that threatened to strip them of every luxury they had ever owned. Vivian lost her law license and faced possible criminal charges for helping Caleb set up fraudulent transfers. Evan rarely slept more than a few hours, spending his nights coordinating with federal investigators. He fed them every hidden detail, every email thread. The more he revealed, the harsher the legal storm became for his enemies. In quiet corners of the city, Tessa tried to find new benefactors, new men to trick, but each time her reputation preceded her. She found doors slammed in her face. She made desperate phone calls to old friends, some of whom had once idolized her. None would lend her the money she needed to maintain her designer life. Meanwhile, in prison, Caleb fought to get bail, fought to reduce charges, fought for a moment of freedom. But each new hearing brought more damning revelations from Evan's files. The evidence was incontrovertible. 3 months later, Evan made an unannounced visit to the county jail. He stood in a small, cramped visiting chamber with fluorescent lights. Across from him, separated by thick glass, sat Caleb, wrists chained. "You," Caleb said, his voice rasping with anger. "Why are you here? Come to gloat?" "Maybe," Evan said, slipping into the chair opposite his twin. They shared the same sharp facial structure, the same height, but everything else was vastly different. "I'm not signing any plea," Caleb growled. "They claim I can reduce my sentence by cooperating." "Screw that. I won't sell out Mom and Dad just to get a shorter term." "You mean you can't," Evan corrected. "The feds already have enough on them thanks to certain documents I provided." Caleb let out a hollow laugh. "Your sense of loyalty is twisted. Those are our parents. You destroyed them, destroyed me, humiliated Tessa. You have no heart, Evan." "An interesting accusation," Evan said, voice measured. "You committed fraud, tried to bury me. You seduced my wife, or maybe she seduced you. Doesn't matter. You conspired to take everything I built, and you expected me to roll over." He leaned closer to the glass. "I'm just better at finishing what you started, and I don't stop until it's complete." "You're insane," Caleb said, eyes burning. Evan rose. "Enjoy your time here. You'll have years to think about how you underestimated me." Caleb stood, rattling his chains. "You bastard, I'll never forgive—" "I'm not asking for forgiveness," Evan cut in, turning away. "You're nothing to me now." He left the visitation area, the guard slamming a metal door behind him. For a moment, the finality of it all felt weighty. But then the old anger lit his chest again. His brother's fate was sealed. Hart Engineering faced scrutiny, but Evan cooperated fully. Loyal board members were rewarded. Those who backed Caleb or Dean were fired, indicted, or fled. He restructured the firm, tightened security, and helped expose a corporate corruption ring, earning praise from the FBI. A year later, he stood at the unveiling of his earthquake-resistant bridge, a sleek marvel spanning the city's river. Cameras flashed as officials called him the genius behind the design. Accepting a plaque, he simply dedicated the project to integrity in engineering. No one knew how close he had come to losing faith in those ideals. Meanwhile, Tessa drifted through cheap apartments, unable to maintain her old lifestyle. Her desperate messages piled up. "We need to talk. I'm sorry. Please help me. I can explain why I did it." Evan never replied. His parents, forced to sell the mansion, begged for support. He ignored them. They had chosen their favorite son, a criminal. Vivian was disbarred, drowning in debt. If she ever tried to rebuild her career, Evan ensured the ethics board had everything needed to keep her out. Although Evan's vengeance seemed complete, certain rumors indicated Tessa might still be searching for a final shot at him. Word reached him that she'd contacted shady private investigators, hoping to uncover secrets that could blackmail Evan. Realizing she hadn't learned her lesson, Evan decided to deliver a more punishing blow. A quiet arrangement was made with several security consultants and 2 ex-military operatives who specialized in legal intimidation tactics. They documented Tessa's attempts to break into corporate properties, forging keys or bribing staff to access restricted areas. One rainy night, Tessa actually tried to slip onto a construction site for Evan's new building, presumably to find something incriminating. She ended up cornered by 2 men in black tactical gear, part of Evan's private security team. They seized her camera, rummaged through her notes, found nothing but desperate fantasies about bringing Evan down. "Let me go!" she shrieked, heart pounding. "You're trespassing," one of the men said coldly. "We have enough evidence to press charges." "How do you think a new felony will look on your record, Miss Bowen?" She stood there, drenched, trembling. "I'll do anything," she whispered. "Don't arrest me." "If you come near Mr. Hart's property again," the man warned, leaning in close, "we'll make sure you're locked up for years." They dumped Tessa onto the sidewalk, soaked and sobbing. By dawn, Evan had the security footage. He watched once, then archived it, ready in case she ever tried another stunt. 2 years later, Caleb was sentenced to 10 years. Robert and Eleanor pleaded guilty to tax violations, stripped of their status. Vivian's appeals failed. Dean served time for fraud. Tessa faded into obscurity. Each holiday, Evan received hollow apologies from his parents. He tossed them into the fire. Tessa's desperate emails claimed she was manipulated, blamed Evan for being cold, begged for money, shelter, anything. He deleted them all. Evan expanded Hart Engineering, building a reputation for innovation and quiet, ruthless efficiency. No one dared cross him again. 5 years after Tessa's departure, Evan was named Engineer of the Decade. The ceremony was grand, filled with powerful figures, but not a single face from his old life. "Mr. Hart," said a reporter from a local news station, shoving a microphone in his face, "you've had tremendous success. What would you say is your guiding principle?" Evan allowed a calm smile. "Proper foundations," he said. "In engineering and in life, if you don't build from a place of truth and strength, everything collapses." After the ceremony, he returned to his newly constructed penthouse, overlooking the city. During the ride in his private elevator, he scrolled through messages. One arrived from the private investigator he'd hired long ago to keep tabs on Tessa. The investigator had discovered she was now in a small desert town, working part-time at a realtor's office that specialized in low-budget foreclosures. She was, by all accounts, miserable. "Serves her right," Evan said under his breath. He recalled the times Tessa had mocked him for spending so many late nights studying advanced engineering texts instead of taking her on exotic vacations. He remembered how she'd complained about his boring approach to everything, how Caleb was more daring, more passionate. But neither Tessa nor Caleb had ever understood what real dedication meant, how methodical planning could transform an unassuming man into an unstoppable force.